Hello, writers. Dr. Everton coming to you from Central Nebraska. Scrambling here to put together some material for you this Monday afternoon. The main thing was to get project number 3 materials posted, and in today's lesson notes, which I'm about to post live, I go over a little bit kind of where we're at in terms of the course. If you go to our homepage, you'll look at our schedule right now, you'll see that we are really entering into the final phase. And what we have, and I know it's a compressed schedule, but this is by design. Even in the course of a regular semester, what we wind up doing is after midterm break, we come back. Students have submitted basically their literature reviews at that point, and then they're concentrating on this final project. And the final project really is that. It's taking the approach of not having you write something that's formulaic or some sort of preset report or format, but instead you come up with some sort of writing project that hopefully is germane and interesting and organic to what you're actually doing in your career, in your major area of study, in your area of interest. Maybe something that continues what you started with your literature review or even project number 1. It doesn't matter. The actual subject matter doesn't matter so much as the skill that we're trying to stress here, which kind of mimics a technical writing scenario or situation. Let's say you're in a workplace or you're in a technical area, you're in a lab, you're in a company, and you as the course of your work, you have to produce a report of some sort, and that's what we're trying to get you to do. And so the actual type of report is really not as important as it is that you develop this project from the beginning, that it becomes your own sort of approach to this, you define your purpose and audience, and then you achieve that stated purpose and audience, and that's the basic approach we're taking. So if you look at the schedule here, you'll see that project number 2 will be due by noon on Thursday, and I posted quite a few notes in the lesson today about this. I'm going to post some additional resources to help you with the response to workshop, which was kind of spotty, and I will offer some feedback on your rough drafts. I will post some other resources that have to do with grammar and sentence skills. And of course, there's those documents that I posted over the weekend that have to do with APA. The APA formatting is something that we usually spend quite a bit of time on in class, and I answer and address students' questions in the classroom setting. You're at a bit of a disadvantage here because you have to do this on your own, but I hope that those videos and those other resources that I posted will help somewhat in this regard. So let's talk a bit about this final project then. You'll notice that it says we begin project number 3 today. All the material that I posted in project number 3 is supposed to help you with that, and we'll go over some of those particulars here in just a second. But I really wanted to stress this idea that you're going to have a proposal that's due by the end of the week, and we don't have a lot of time left to do this project. So real world working environment, real technical sort of report environment. You've been given an assignment. You have to put this thing together for your bosses in a couple of weeks. It's actually pretty similar to what you might encounter in an actual workforce. And also, based on the work we've done so far, we kind of slowly rolled into the instructions and documentation. Then we did the literature review. I mean, you should be equipped now to really sort of hit the ground running and come up with some sort of approach to this report. And so, yes, time is compressed here at the end. It's your final assignment. It's your final for the class. We don't do a final exam. We do a culminating project, and this is it. And so what you'll do is you'll start to put together this portfolio, and I'll show you what the portfolio is here in just a second. But the portfolio you'll put together, and part of the portfolio is a proposal. And the proposal for your report is due on Friday. Now, you are looking at Chapter 8 today, which focuses on technical reports. You'll be looking at Chapter 9 on Thursday, which focuses on proposals. Those are typically the most common types of reports that students do. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. You don't have to wait to read Chapter 9. Obviously, it might help to read ahead because between Chapter 8 and 9 and the work we've already done in the course, you should start to develop some idea about what you might want to write so that you can submit that formal proposal by Friday. And that's a crucial deadline. We really have to get going on that because then the following week you have to just really get going on this report and you'll have a rough draft that'll be due. Half the class will do workshop on Thursday, and half the class will do workshop on the following Monday. We might tinker with those deadlines a little bit. We have some leeway here. There won't be a lot of extra quizzes. There won't be a lot of extra forum activities from here on out. There's a forum activity today. There may be a forum activity on Thursday. But other than that, for the rest of the course, you're really focusing on this major report and then providing feedback in this whole class workshop. And then right at the end of the course, the last day of the course, you submit this portfolio, and it contains all this major work that you've done, and that's basically the approach we're taking for the rest of the semester. So what might you write about for your final report? Well, let's talk about this a little bit. So if you click on project number 3, final project, I hope you've had a chance to look over these materials. You'll see that there is basic guidelines here. It's just a very broadly based assignment. It says some sort of technical report, a technical report, a report. So it's not going to be like a letter to your grandmother or a novel or something creative, or what we sometimes do in Comp 2 is we do sort of a research paper, a position paper, or something like that. No, what you really need to do is you need to focus on something that is really similar to something that might happen in a technical workplace, or it could also be a scholarly report. There's lots and lots of leeway here, but your project proposal is going to be very crucial in this. Now, we're going to provide a lot of examples of the types of reports that you might do over the next couple class meetings, but one of the things you're not going to want to do is just another literature review. We've already covered that. Now, you could base your final project on a continuation of what your literature review turned up, and then take that into another direction, and you produce one of these other types of reports that we're going to talk about here in just a second. But basically, that's the approach. It just says write a professional or scholarly report that follows the basic features and format of the technical documents or in text, or in a discipline of your choosing. So it really is quite open. I'm totally open to the idea of you coming up with whatever idea, even if it's not something you see in the book. We'll work together, but it has to have this technical element. It can't be a personal reflective. It can't be a position paper, really, for the most part. It needs to be something that fits in this scope of a technical report. Lots of examples in the book for you to look at. There is a little bit of a caveat here about writing across curriculum because of what came up last semester in my class. Students were sort of repurposing or using elements of work that they did in other classes, which I actually don't have a problem with, because I think what you're doing in this class is you're putting that material and that knowledge to use in a new report. And we truly are interested in how well you can take this accumulated knowledge, put it in a package, make it fit the purpose of your audience, and that's all totally fine. But you have to be upfront about it, and you have to do some original work for this course. And if you don't do so, you're not necessarily guilty of plagiarism if it's something that you wrote previously for another course, but you are guilty of academic dishonesty because you're trying to pass something off that's work you did for another course in this course. And this happened because Turnitin will flag your papers, and I'll see the work that you submitted at CSC or elsewhere. I had 2 or 3 students last semester whose work from high school showed up on Turnitin, and we had to have them redo their assignments, and they got in trouble. So don't do this. Make sure that you're very much upfront. If you're trying to sort of work with an assignment that's in another class right now, and it might work for this class, we can make it go together in the proposal, fine, but just don't lie about it. Don't be cagey about it. We want to make sure that we're upfront about that. So let's take a look at the requirements here. You'll notice there's a lot of weight in this report. It's the longest report. It says 3,000 words minimum, and this is just a general guideline. It needs to be longer than your literature review generally. The 300 is kind of a baseline, but it really needs to be the appropriate length for the type of document you're trying to produce, and it has to have the appropriate amount of evidence. I've gotten away from sort of having a specific number of sources that are required. It tends to just sort of force students to do a lot of padding and stuff in their documents. In your portfolio, though, you will see that you will be documenting and doing some outside research that will be part of the portfolio as part of this annotated bibliography. So you put this portfolio together. The portfolio itself is worth 100 points, and we'll take a look at that here in just a second. And that's just material. That's just like the content that you put together. And if you follow the requirements there, that's an easy 100 points. The rest of it comes in a proposal that you submit at the end of this week worth 20 points as part of this portfolio. And then you'll just build the portfolio from the ground up, and you'll submit a rough draft for workshop. You'll get feedback from everybody, and I will actually grade that rough draft and provide feedback, and that is worth 100 points. And then the final draft, after you've gotten the feedback, hopefully we have some revision. This sort of approach really focuses on revision and making the report better. So there's a 200 point total for the final culminating thing that is at the top of your portfolio that's supposed to be your best report, your best writing for the whole semester. That's worth 200 points. So you see how over the course of the semester things have gotten, the weight has gotten heavier, and the stakes are a little bit higher for these final projects. You'll see that the grading criteria are quite broad. It basically is going to say, are you doing what is expected and required for this type of document in this type of field that you've chosen to sort of explore for this type of report? We'll be using the value rubric, so you know that focuses a lot on content, conventions. Are you thinking about the writing situation correctly, and all those sort of things. There are a wide variety of project ideas that are outlined here, and let me speak about that just here briefly. And Chapter 8 provides a list of sort of kinds of reports on page 181 to 182. These are technical reports. They divide the reports up into formal and informal reports and even letter type reports. Then in Chapter 9, you're going to see that there's a set of reports that relate to sort of proposals. And I don't want you to get too sort of, well, you need examples for things you might actually write, but what we're looking for here is just some sort of written document that expresses some sort of purpose for a specific audience. And what students have done typically in the past is they've done a formal research report of some sort, they've done business plans, they've done proposals. Proposals are very popular because they're kind of an easy format to follow. There's all sorts of approaches you can take. Most reports are generally going to do one of three things. They're going to either inform or provide information, and if you think about it in an actual workplace or in a technical environment, that's really common. You have to share this information, what you're doing, with the rest of your colleagues or with the world at large. They might document something that has happened, so it's a report activity or an activity report where maybe you went to a conference and you're documenting what you're doing, or you're documenting what your factory is doing, whatever. Those aren't quite so common in this course. And then we have reports that sort of spark an action or give a direction to people. You got to start doing these things. These might be feasibility reports. These might be proposals. These are all very common and good sort of approaches to take to this kind of an assignment. I've outlined some of these here: a business plan, a how-to paper, a defining or exploring a concept paper, and a white paper, which is a certain kind of authoritative report usually from an organization that's putting sort of a position or an idea out there. These are all potential reports that you could do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to end this video. This has kind of been an overview of the project, and I'm going to post another video that will be a little bit shorter, but it will go into much more detail about how to fill out the proposal, the proposal in the portfolio, and we'll look at a couple of the student examples, okay? So stay tuned for that.